Hey everybody, where am I running to? That's the question of the week. Why am I running so fast? That's a great question, actually. I'd like to introduce you guys to my co-host, the snail. That's the story we're going to get to in a minute, why this guy's hanging out with me and what I learned from him this week. But first starts with the story. Yesterday, I took the day off. First actual day off in a long time, which I really needed. You know, been burning the candle at both ends, really kind of feeling exhausted, putting a lot of energy out into the world and feeling like I needed to regenerate. And that's always, a source of stress because it's like, well, is the world going to end if I stop my to-do list and I put my phone on silent? So I did an experiment like any good scientist. I took my phone and just put it on silent, actually shut it all the way off, threw it in my desk drawer, said no more, not taking any calls, not doing any appointments all day. And one of the strategies that I use that I find is the most therapeutic on a day that I'm going to take an intentional day of rest is basically just going with whatever I'm feeling like doing the most. Like if I drop everything else, everything I should do, everything I need to do, everything everyone else wants me to do or I think they want me to do, and I'm just like, what do I actually want to do in this moment? I find it very therapeutic because it allows me is just to really tune into my body, really tune into what I really need in that moment. If I'm hungry, I stop and eat. So not rush and wolf something down real quick. I stop and actually intentionally make some food, which is a totally different experience. And if I feel like I need some fresh air, I go for a walk and I don't worry about what time it is. I don't worry about how much I'm getting done or how productive I'm being. It's all about kind of just restoring and refueling and taking in kind of, taking in the world, taking in all my thoughts and things, the things that I don't process, the emotional things that I don't process when I'm going so fast. They call it like the busy trap. Tim Ferriss, I think, has an article on that, where you never really stop and feel all those emotions and process all the things, even if they're great things, even if they're happy things, they're some success, appreciating all the little victories along the way. If you don't stop and give yourself the emotional space to process that stuff, you can't really savor those victories. You can't really appreciate the good things that have happened. Take the time to appreciate and have gratitude for those things. And for me yesterday, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of appreciation. There was also some heavy stuff that, it can get pushed aside when you're moving so fast. So it took, there was some tears too. There were some moments of, feeling some things that had been coming up and working them out, and it was very cathartic. So I recommend that for everybody too, if you can make the space in your life. And really it is a choice. That's the thing. The space is not going to create itself. That is one of my big lessons I think I've learned in the past year, really starting a business, is that the space to rest will not just happen. If you open up your calendar and let people start booking it, it will be booked and there will not be time for yourself. And so I've actually started doing that on the advice of, a few mentors and friends, blocking off time on the calendar, not just for meetings, but for work things. Just like today was my creative block of time. I'm going to do some creative stuff. I'm going to hang out with you guys and the snail here, and we're just going to hang. That's on the official Google Calendar for Anabolic Aces today. So that's what we're doing right now. So the question, as I was kind of condensing my thoughts, and I'll get to the story of this snail here in a minute, but the question really want to focus on today is kind of like direction versus speed. Like, is it really true? Like, they talk about, especially in entrepreneurship, a lot, like hustle. You got to hustle, 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 all day long, every day, work all night, until you're rich and famous and all your dreams come true, blah, blah, blah. So is that really, the path to success, or perhaps is there, a slightly more balanced approach? And I mean, it's a little bit of a rhetorical question, because obviously if we burn ourselves out and exhaust ourselves trying to run so fast that we fall on our face, like, I mean, there's no more energy left to keep going. So me being a very, driven person, I've had to kind of learn that lesson the hard way a lot of the time by pushing myself harder and harder and harder until I just totally get too tired to keep going, and then taking breaks, kind of giving myself a pep talk and getting back up. So yesterday, during that lesson that I was doing, try to take some advice from the world and from news sources. I think that's part of being, anyone that's going to be creative, anyone that's going to, try to synthesize ideas in the world and regurgitate them in kind of a more cohesive fashion. You have to kind of seek counsel and wisdom from other people that have done things or are currently doing them that is specifically different than what you're doing. It's great to have, like-minded meetings and conventions, and but it can get kind of to be an echo chamber after a while, hearing only like-minded people talk. So when I get kind of confused or feel like I might be missing a big piece of the picture, I try to get creative to try to take in information in different ways. So yesterday, while I was on my self-care day, I went out for a walk and I had a plan. I didn't start out with a plan. Then I thought, okay, well, there's an errand I've got to run. Maybe I'll just keep walking down the road a couple miles and do this errand. It's a nice day. Sure, seems like a good idea. So I'm walking down the road and, taking things in, taking in the trees, listening to the sights and the sounds of what's going on. Just taking in, it's very peaceful walking alone because it gives you really that space to think without any other distractions. Of course, my phone was off again, so that stayed away. And I'm walking down the road and I kind of had a rough goal in mind, and I stopped to look at some water flowing through a grate, just kind of like taking in the surroundings, focusing on the water, kind of breathing, kind of like that meditative, Zen kind of mindset thing. And I happened to look up from the grate and I see one of those traffic signs sitting there right in front of me, and it had the word "slow down" written right on it. And it wasn't lit up, but it's just sitting there. And I stopped for a minute and I'm like, yes, this is the message. Slow down. Like, do I really want to go walk 2 miles here, or do I just want to turn around and go home? And in that moment, I was just like, no, I want to go home. So I turned around and walked home, and purposefully kind of slowing down and seeing what I would notice. And as I'm walking back up the road, almost to my house, I walking right in the middle of the sidewalk, and I look down and I see a snail. Not this exact snail, because again, I didn't have my phone, so I didn't get a picture, but this is, a likeness, close enough resemblance. Let's call him Steve the snail. All right, so Steve, I see Steve in the middle of the road here. And my first instinct I realized, which, being a parent and a business owner and, the CEO of my company, all these things, I feel like, and a coach as well, I always feel this kind of need to, if I see a smaller creature or thing or perceived to be smaller, someone needing my help, I should immediately save them. I should I should grab them and pluck them out of harm's way and put them somewhere safe. And so my first thought with the snail is I should pick it up and I should put it to safety out of the sidewalk. What if someone steps on it? What if someone doesn't notice them? And then I thought, maybe this is a lesson I need to learn. The snail obviously has his own agenda. He's got a plan. Like, he didn't wake up this morning saying, I need Chad to come save me if I wander across the street. He's not even the same species as me. He's a snail. So I'm like, I think that I might learn something really valuable if I stop here and just observe. So I sat down. I had an umbrella with me because it was raining a little bit earlier. So I sat down on my umbrella and I just sat with the snail for about 20 minutes. And we just chilled out. It was funny. One of my neighbors actually stopped and thought I might have had a heart attack or something. They thought I was a little bit crazy looking sitting on the sidewalk hanging out with the snail, but I said, assured them everything was fine. So I talked, or not talk, I didn't say anything. I just sat with the snail and just kind of felt its energy and just observed what he was doing. I was like, maybe this guy's got a plan. Maybe he's got it all figured out and I'm the one that's kind of lost over here. And I watched him, he's in the middle of the sidewalk, he's doing his thing. And because I allowed the space to myself to observe without talking, without directing, without trying to control the situation, I watched and see what he was up to. And I watched him, slowly watching every time the wind would come by, his antenna would be like, and they would like close in, and then he would come back out and, come back out of his shell and start kind of like moving around again. And I watched him kind of, eating things off of the ground, just like really slowly, like, almost like licking the pavement, trying to get, I don't know what the snail is eating off there, but I'm assuming something helpful. So I watched him doing this for a while, and he's doing that for about 5 minutes. And I kept thinking, like, well, gosh, what if someone walks by? They're going to step on him, or I should still save him. It's got to be the thing I need to do is save the snail. Maybe I'll save him later. I'm like, I'll give him a few more minutes, see what happens. So he's kind of fooling around in the middle here, and meanwhile I'm realizing, what else am I noticing? Well, I'm stopping and going this slow. I'm relaxing. My heart rate is going down. The snail, I realize, is teaching me like how to do this. It's teaching me how to slow down. It's teaching me how to take a breath and let go of all this control, to let go of the need to constantly micromanage everything in my life and myself, even in my own thoughts, just to hey, the snail's teaching me in this high counsel session, that I need to slow down. And that was pretty cool. When I started looking at it as that, receiving the wisdom of this other creature, it's okay, what else can I learn? What else can I learn from him? So where will this go, basically, if it is a great metaphor for my whole day. What happens if I just, drop the reins or drop the mic or whatever and let go of, my business, my relationships, my family, and just let everyone else be for even one day. What happens to that fear, that anxiety? It's actually much harder for me to not work than to work every day. Working every day is kind of that sense of control, of certainty. I listened to a great Tony Robbins podcast this last week. I've been telling everyone about the 6 core needs. It's on iTunes. If you look up the best of this podcast, amazing podcast, because it talks about all the different needs people have and the ways that people will always meet their needs. And one of the ways, to meet the need for certainty, which is this, that you're not going to be in pain, you're not going to have some kind of chaos always in your life, is, having things orderly and neat. Having your desk perfect, like I like to have, having all of your to-do lists and your calendars always perfect, and controlling all of that. It brings a sense of comfort and certainty, but it also can be very stifling to creativity, to rest, to letting go of those things that need to be let go. Emotions that need to flow through you, things that need to be purged out. That stuff needs time and space to let go, and slowing down and just literally kind of smelling the roses or sitting on the side of the road with a good friend, which in this case was a snail. It allowed me the space to do that, to let some things out and kind of cool my jets. And, about all the time I was processing through this sort of stuff, I was wow, this is an amazing lesson from, not a world-class, mentor, speaker, anyone like that. It's just a little creature just doing his own thing. And as I was thinking all this, I see the snail, something happen. The snail turns and he starts to go back towards, what I perceived as safety, which is just, he doesn't really care about that. He's just doing what he was doing, and again, this kind of brings me back to another theme about boundaries, where I've had to learn some hard lessons about boundaries too, that in the past I wasn't super good about setting, appropriate or moderate boundaries. I'd either kind of let everything go or then start really, really strict boundaries at some point when I get overwhelmed. And I think this was a good exercise for me, letting the snail just be. It's got its own shell, it's got its own plan. I don't need to mess with it. It has its boundaries from me, and it's not asking me to do anything for it. I don't need to save it. It has its own thing going on. So the snail turns around and he starts slowly sliding back towards the dirt, or whatever, off the end of the sidewalk. And he just cruising back there. And, it takes him about another 5 minutes while I'm just kind of sitting with him. And at this point, I'm just kind of wishing him good vibes. I'm wishing him just kind of gratitude and positive energy. Just that, I'm not going to save you. I'm not going to help you or hurt you or step on you or rescue you or anything. I'm just going to let you do your thing. And just wish you well. That's it. Just be thankful for your time that you spent with me, the lessons that you taught me, and just wish you well on your journey. And it really kind of hit home for me that that's kind of the thing, as a coach, that I really want to bring to my coaching, is that same thing of a little bit less of the controlling and the managing so much, and a little more just empowering people, which is always my goal. But again, it's a practice every day, just like yoga practice, practicing being authentic and walking that walk, not just talking it. So I thank the snail for, its time and for kind of teaching me that lesson. And, that all I really need to do is just be myself, be authentic, and support my people that I love. Love you guys out there, everybody that's watching. And that was it. And I didn't, importantly also, I didn't wait until the snail made it all the way to what I thought was the safe zone. I specifically got up and kept going on my way after thanking the snail. because I wanted to, kind of like in the movie where, you know, you don't see the ending always. You kind of see that it's on the way there, but it's like that trust factor. Like I had to trust that that snail is going to make it, even if I don't watch it get there. And I think about this a lot with my son Dexter out there. Like I can't be with him all the time. Split custody with his mom, and I can't protect him 100% of the time, and that's hard. You know, that chokes me up a lot of the time when I think about it. But I have to do that. I have to trust that whatever energy I give him when I spend with him, that's going to be enough. You know, that whole good enough thing. That's going to be enough energy to teach him things, to send him out on his way into the world. And I just have to trust that, like, he's been prepared. Like just being with me and having, you know, the experiences with me is enough to prepare him for the world. And the world is a dangerous place, just like the snail, right? Like somebody could walk along anytime and just stomp right on you, and that's the end of it. You hit by a bus tomorrow. But it is what it is. It's just life is risk and vulnerability. Like, you know, author Brene Brown that Natasha and I love, all of her work, talks a lot about that. Like life is vulnerability, basically, that you put yourself out there, and you just have to just do your best. Put yourself out there, do your best, and see what happens. And there is always risk. Anything ventured, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And the snail was teaching me that lesson yesterday. That it's okay. You know, it's okay to cross the road, and if you look both ways, and you know, just do your best to try to survive. So I went on my way. I let the snail go, and I went back home and just chill out. And then, you know, kind of process my thoughts for the rest of the day, did what I needed to do with my internal work, and started out more intentionally the next day. I decided, you know, today that I was going to take the step to make this video, to be putting myself out there, being authentic, and, you know, kind of setting a new intention to really put out my voice into the world, to do more writing, but not just writing, to do more things like this, things like video, podcasting, speaking at events, which I've done a lot of recently, but, you know, getting it to be not quite as, you know, formal, just a little more off, you know, behind the scenes, off the cuff kind of stuff. So working on a few blog articles right now. One of the ones I'm working on that by a lot of requests is one that's titled right now, How to Eat Healthy Without Going Broke or Crazy, because I feel like that's a big myth that I want to bust, that like it's expensive to eat healthy. I know it's not, because I do it and I don't spend a lot of money on it proportionally to the nutrient density that I get from my food. I'm a price per ounce warrior, and I want to show people how to do that, all the tips and tricks that I've learned. And I guess that really kind of speaks to, I'm really working on kind of catching my stride here of like putting myself out there and giving back all the things that I've learned in like the most authentic way, the way that can reach the most people, the way that can have the most impact. And that's really kind of what is all about. It's what Natasha and I, why we started this business, because we want to help people. We want to, you know, make it a little bit easier to shorten the learning curve for people with their health, where, you know, we might have had to do it the hard way, taking a decade or two even to fix problems. We want to be able to shorten that curve for people. And that's why, you know, we take the time to do things like this to, I realize that, you know, my own fears about putting myself out there on some level might, you know, it might be preventing me from putting out content sooner, until I wait till it's perfected or polished or, you know, perfectly executed, where I can get that idea out there maybe sooner, and it will help some people today when they need it, not tomorrow or a year from now, when I finally get around to making it perfect. So that's my thoughts for the day, guys. That's what I got. Thank you for joining, and best wishes. And if you have any comments or questions, as always, drop a line here on the comment feed, and see you on the flip side. Peace.